And with that, we welcome you into lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream. We keep you connected with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and different members from the Lewis and Clark College community 4 days a week, available on demand at youtube.com/lcpios, and of course live on Facebook Live Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, as we are today. Appreciate you taking the time to join us on this Wednesday, as it's pretty neat. 21 weeks of doing the show, and we go around the horn for the very first time as we have a chance to talk to Matthew Barreau. He's the head coach of Lewis and Clark Cross Country, was our first ever guest on the show, and we will talk to him momentarily. But first, welcome you to the program. I'm Ryan Goff. I'm the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark. We are the Pioneers out of Portland, Oregon, and competing in the NCAA Division III level against over 430 institutions nationwide. A big chance for our student athletes and students alike to get an outstanding experiential liberal arts education at one of the coolest locations on the planet, Portland, Oregon, the only institution in the Northwest Conference among the 9 institutions total that is in an area of 500,000 or more. It really is a unique opportunity. I'm very excited that we have the opportunity to share that with our students and student athletes, as we'll talk to Coach Barreau in just a few moments, because circumstances changed slightly on Monday, and we will invite you to go to lcpioneers.com and check that out. We'll talk a little bit more about what's happening this upcoming fall and with our early winter sports as well. We do invite you to get in touch with the show. You can do so in the Facebook Live comments below. You can also use the like and heart buttons too. We always appreciate that, as that helps with Facebook loving itself some Facebook, putting us in more feeds. Certainly would appreciate you to do that. Also, sports@lclark.edu is where you can go and have the opportunity to contact us. If you have future guests that you want to see on the show, any of those kind of things, we certainly would appreciate your thoughts. You can do so at lcpioneers.com or through our email, sports@lclark.edu, and an opportunity for us to share with our social media channels as well. You can find us on LC Pioneers, both on Instagram and Twitter, and occasionally we'll pop up on our Snapchat as well, but primarily Instagram and Twitter. You can also check us out, as I mentioned, youtube.com/lcpios, and we've been keeping that playlist fresh. Every single episode that we've done at youtube.com/lcpios, it is available to watch on demand, so we invite you to check that out. But as I mentioned, visit our website. An update from the Northwest Conference, as they have announced that all competition for both the for all the fall 2020 sports and the early part of winter 2020-21 will now be postponed. Their best efforts being made to have a schedule of spring competition for the fall 2020 sports, and there is a lot of moving parts with that. So certainly we don't have all the answers that we hope to have, but certainly we'll continue to update you at lcpioneers.com. And specific to reopening for fall 2020, as classes are now about a week and a half away, you can go to lcpioneers.com/COVID and have an opportunity to check those out as well. And so with that said, let's bring in our guest for today. He is entering his second year as the head coach of the Lewis and Clark Pioneers cross-country programs. We are excited to welcome in head coach Matthew Barreau to lcpioneers.com live. Coach, appreciate you taking the time to join us and have an opportunity to talk to you about this upcoming fall. It's definitely going to look a little bit different, and I do want to give you an opportunity too to talk about your recruits. But let's start with kind of the roller coaster that's been last spring into this fall. What have you done with your team to try to keep everyone in the loop and try to keep everyone as optimistic in some trying times?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. I appreciate being the first guest, and I appreciate being here for round 2. Yeah, it has been a roller coaster, but if you take a long-term vision, things always look a little bit safer or clearer. And so some of the ebbs and flows that have gone, is there going to be a season? There is going to be a season, but not for other sports. Now there is for our sport, but not now for our sport. Some of those ups and downs can be really emotionally challenging to process. So I think more than anything, we've tried not to react on a small scale to some of the breaking news each time it's happened. if you take a little bit of time to digest it and think about what it might mean long term, it's not always as scary as it or frustrating as it might seem initially. So I think throughout the summer, what we've talked about is that we were going to take the long-term vision with the fall and look at more the end of the fall, the championship season, instead of some of the early meets, and obviously talked about how that would set us up for even further things down the road in the spring or future years. So now that we've got the news that the championships aren't happening at the end of the fall, we still have a little bit of that confidence that what we're doing is not just for the short term, that we have that longer term plan in place.
So you've had this opportunity to build this team and go through a full year of recruiting, and I imagine that taking both your women's and men's team from last to third at the Northwest Conference Championships, you probably felt pretty poised about what you were going to be able to do. So without having championships, at least in the immediate, sometime this fall, yeah, what do you do to try to clarify the things that are going to be allowed and the things that aren't going to be allowed, so that going into fall 2020, you can kind of adapt? I love the way that you talked about that idea of, not falling into the breaking news, because, you never know what's going to change tomorrow and as people adjust. But do you have any hunches on what your competition, or I should say more practice type schedule things, are going to be in the fall?
The way that our athletes train over the summer is I provide them training that they follow to the best of their ability, and that's essentially how we're going to be handling the fall. And whether we have that direct contact with them at practice, or whether they're doing more things on their own, just however that ends up playing out, I just have to have the trust and confidence that they're going to be doing what's asked of them. And then from their standpoint, they've got to have the trust and confidence that what they're doing is meaningful. One phrase that I use all the time with the team and with recruits is you got to treat yourself like you're a professional. You got to treat yourself like you're doing this, not like it's a job, but that you're doing it for a very specific purpose. And as long as you know that purpose, you'll have confidence that you're doing something of value. So whether we have, the same kind of setup as we did last year with training, the weight room limitations being indoors, lots of things are changing, and not just for our team, but for other teams. And so we got to all kind of work together to make sure that the entire department has the opportunities they're looking for with their team. So we'll set the team up for having opportunities to feel like they're having valuable experiences. But first and foremost, I'm excited that they're coming back to campus, and we have a chance to interact with them in person, and it's going to do wonders for their mental health. That we're going to be able to have some version of contact with them, and that they're going to have interactions safely with their teammates and friends.
Matthew Barreau joining us on lcpioneers.com live. Again, our first repeat guest. We're excited to have all the head coaches kind of come through the car wash again, if you will, and have an opportunity to be on the show. But I'm curious. I mentioned that finish last year, and there seemed like so much optimism from what you were able to accomplish in fall 2019. I'm curious, mentality-wise, are you someone who just always seems to be building, you can't help yourself, or do you take moments to kind of reflect back on last year, and maybe it catches up with you on a random May day, right? You kind of smile and realize what you're able to accomplish. What kind of better fits your personality?
I don't want to. I'm definitely not cliche, so I'm not going to be the standard radio guest or TV guest to tell you that, oh well, we're always building, and when my career is over, I'll look back. Because I think, as I've told my wife, I don't know when I would want to retire. I just love what I do. So I definitely reflect back, and I think it's very important to. Our sport, if you look at the sport of track and field and cross country, essentially it's a sport doomed to end in failure, because you're going to always seek getting that personal best, or in the pole vault or high jump, your last attempt at every meet is a miss. The last attempt in your career is a miss. So our sport is set up to be a failure sport at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, you're going to get some PR, you're going to have this best that, how do I top it? And eventually there's not going to be a way to top that specific moment. So if all we did is look for the future and building and what's next, we forget about where we came from and how we got to where we're at. I think a very important part of building that next step is taking time to reflect on what you just did and what you did accomplish. So, I'm very proud of what we did this last fall, and I have taken time to think about it. And I think that taking time to reflect and think about it and be excited about it is what allows us to have an even greater eye on what's possible in the future.
All right, recruiting. I have the impression that you're a tenacious recruiter. You enjoy it, it really seems. What was your first, yeah, right? What was your first year like in terms of getting the student athletes in for the 2020-21 class that you wanted? And then in a moment, I'd love you to kind of summarize, some of the aspects that they bring to your team once we are able to get back into competition.
It's the same. It was very similar to what I had to do coming in with my own team. The first recruiting job was with my own team. I had to recruit the athletes on my team, all 18 of them, to be convinced that what they were continuing in their collegiate journey was valuable to them, and that they might have come for different reasons, than anything that I would have said to them recruiting wise. And so I had to recruit them first, and they bought into the vision. And I think their performance throughout the fall and the early part of the winter and spring kind of proved that. So it just became an extension of that to the recruits this year. It was selling them on the vision of what this place can be. As you alluded to earlier in the broadcast, we're the only institution of our conference to be in a major metropolitan area of over 500,000 people. So we have amazing advantages from that standpoint for our students. The internship opportunities, the availability of cultural experiences, when social distancing allows a little bit better. But then we have some of the best training situations here, with the Tryon Creek State Park right next to us, 10 miles of trails immediately next to us, 300 miles of trails in Portland. So we have all the things that are set up to be a tremendously successful program. And so if we can find people who believe in that vision, then those great results are possible. So it's just selling the vision to people who want to buy it. There's going to be people for whom that vision doesn't fit, or for whom they have a different vision of what they want their experience to be. So as far as recruiting goes, I think the things I look for, I want people who love the sport, and I want people who want to contribute to the betterment of others, other than just themselves, and to try to seek the best in themselves. And I think if you meet those three things, you're going to live a very, very valuable life and valuable experiences. So most of what we looked for and what the team is bringing this year, the recruits, we have 21 incoming recruits this week to campus, and I'm really excited about the energy and excitement they're bringing. They believe in the vision, and they are going to start learning their role in that vision. That's going to be the exciting part, is helping these people each find their different path.
We're talking to Matthew Barreau, head cross-country coach for Lewis and Clark, on lcpioneers.com live. You can watch us Tuesday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, and our plan is to continue having the show into the fall semester, as competition again has been canceled for the entire rest of the year, the calendar year. They're looking at the Northwest Conference adjusting things to make things happen for the spring semester regarding fall competition in the early part of winter perhaps too. We'll keep you updated at lcpioneers.com/COVID. All right, Matthew, We're going to put them up on the screen, and by no means am I going to have you talk about each of your incoming student athletes individually, but perhaps that will be a special segment of the show at some point, because we're going to have to fill some calendar dates. But what is it about the young men and women who are joining your team that you are really appreciative of? What are they going to bring to the Pios once we can get back on the tracks?
A love for the school, first and foremost. As the students were given the option of staying home and learning remotely if they needed to, and they were given the option of opting out of housing, and just a lot of different things to help them feel safe in their new journey here. And the any school was worried a little bit about the summer attrition rate on who would be comfortable going to schools, or just what the situation was going to be. But every single one of the students that we recruited and that committed to us are coming, and they're going to be part of their journey at Lewis and Clark. So we're very excited about the fact that they love the school, that they found passion in this place, and I think that's going to carry over to their passion that they have for running. So as a whole, I think just that energy, excitement, is something they're each going to bring to the table. We have people from Texas, from New Zealand, from California, Oregon, Washington, from the DC area, from Colorado, from Nevada. I'm going to miss some there, but we've got people from just a little bit of everywhere, and I'm really excited about the diversity that's going to bring to the program. Different experiences, different cultural experiences, and in the climate that the world and especially Portland are going through right now, it's going to be very valuable for us to keep growing as people, that we're experiencing different people's avenues coming here. So it's going to be a great experience, I think.
All right. We mentioned you were last with us in the early part of March, Coach, and since then, Sean Richardson has been named COSIDA Academic All-American, which is one of the first times that that's happened for Lewis and Clark in quite some time. Recap what this first group of seniors that you had, including Sean, meant to your program when you think of it from the perspective of, you said you had to kind of sell yourself to your incoming recruits, if you will, the class that you inherited. How did they help you, and what did he mean to the program?
It's always tough for seniors to have a new coach, because they're so far along their journey. They feel like things are proceeding kind of status quo for them, and then they have this whole new angle coming at them their senior year. So as they're getting ready to do their thesis, their capstone projects, and other academic things, getting ready for life, they have a new expectation thrown on them in something that was probably their most consistent aspect of their college experience. So what it always means a lot to me when seniors can buy into the program, because they're going to be the ones who benefit directly the least. They're going to be within the program the least. They're anything that I'm trying to say is possible is going to happen after they leave, for the most part. So what it meant for me to have the seniors buy in and believe, is that they really set the tone for what's going to come next. And so I've stayed in touch with them. I was able to meet up with them this summer, all three seniors, Miguel, Sean, and Sam. I was able to meet up with them before they kind of all went their separate ways. Sam's interning this year. I'm going to get that wrong, whether she's interning or has an actual job, but she's working in the medical field this year, preparing for medical school next year. Miguel just flew back to Spain. Is preparing for graduate school over there, and Sean just flew off to Washington, D.C. Ironically, where Neil Ware is, who was the last person who was COSIDA All-American, and he's the school record holder Sean was chasing desperately. And Neil was one of your guests earlier this summer. So he's over in D.C. now, and doing some work with math, and getting prepared to go to graduate school. So I'm very excited about all the things that they accomplished throughout their time and all the things they meant to the program in my first year, and the things that are going to come later will at least be in part due to what they've meant to the team.
Well, we look forward to catching up with Miguel, going to be our guest on Friday. Okay. So you'll have to text me a question that I should ask him. But I definitely was eager to see what this team was going to bring on the track this upcoming fall. It's just delayed. It is not canceled. Yep. We will continue to wish for everyone to stay safe. Head coach Matthew Barreau, thanks for joining us on lcpioneers.com live.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
All right, there's Coach joining us on this Wednesday show, and an awful lot of talent that he has coming back for this upcoming year. And as soon as they are able to get on the track, we are eager to see them and see how they can take a +6 change in finish from the 2018 Northwest Conference Championships to the 2019 Northwest Conference Championships. It really kind of punctuated such an impressive fall for all of our primarily fall intercollegiate teams last year. We have a fall 2019 recap because from women's soccer, football, volleyball, and to cross country with Sean qualifying for the national championships, NCAA Division III national championships. It just was such a tremendous effort by his team in the first year with a brand new head coach. So I will not probably wane and get fatigued from asking about those moments, because that is such a powerful thing that they were able to accomplish. But at the same time, you can hear Coach Barreau say it's just the start, and he definitely has that mentality, and his ability and desire to recruit is great, because when you see 21 incoming cross-country student athletes, not just cross-country track and field combined, but just for the cross-country team, it's going to be an exciting time when we can finally see them competing. So certainly appreciate his time taking a moment or so to jump on the show with us. Speaking of Nevada, we will have, I should know, Nevadan, I believe, is perhaps what you refer to those from Nevada. But Madeline Landerfelt will join us tomorrow. She is a rising senior for women's tennis, and excited to talk to her about the upcoming year as she moves from her junior to senior year. It's one of my favorite times when it comes to the stories that we get to hear, how they're really sinking their teeth into academics and athletics, and what's ahead for her as well. And then, as I mentioned, Miguel Haro Ruiz will join us on Friday. He'll join us from Spain, as Coach Barreau mentioned, moving into the graduate school time for him as well. So excited to have both of those up on an upcoming episode of lcpioneers.com live. And the second show from the expanded mobile studio, if you will, our remote studio, probably better said, as we'll continue to have the show over the course of the upcoming fall, and certainly welcome your input. One thing that we are so appreciative of is everyone who's not only been watching. That's an easy thing for us to identify. You either interact with the show or we look at the analytics, and that's super promising. But those who have taken time to say something, whether it's directly to us through sports@lclark.edu or whether you're just commenting with someone that you know from Lewis and Clark, we really appreciate it, because this is a lot of fun to do and keep everyone connected. And as I've talked about, one of my favorite things in what is an undesirable time, no one wants to have a pandemic. I wish that nobody was getting sick nor dying. And so it's a really tough time to try to find a positive spin on anything. And so, the fact that we're able to connect with you from afar is certainly appreciated, and continue to do so into the fall 2020 semester. So until we come back tomorrow with Madeline, big thanks to Coach Barreau for joining us. Big thanks to you for watching. I'm Ryan Goff. We will talk to you again soon for more lcpioneers.com live. You can watch us live Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live. Easiest way to get there is lcpioneers.com/live. And if you miss any of the shows, you can always check them out on YouTube, youtube.com/lcpios. Until then, goodbye, everybody. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Lewis and Clark is amazing.
Beautiful campus, small classes.
When you really come here, you get this sense and the feeling that this is a place that you could spend 4 years.
I was so comfortable learning and growing here.
There's no ostentation, there's no pretension, no status. Everyone's just here to learn.
To this bustling metropolitan area.
The overseas program is giving you the opportunity to explore the world go to places that you never thought of.